Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to this memorial gathering where we come to honor and celebrate the life of Lorne Lee. I'm Christopher New and I welcome you to Southminster Steinhauer United Church. This is a place to be spiritual seekers united in community, a place that Lorne called a spiritual home. As a community, we show respect and gratitude that we call and gather ourselves here whenever we gather on Treaty 6 land, honoring the traditions, land, and Indigenous peoples of this place. We are all welcome here, all ages, all sizes, all colors, all genders, all sexualities, all traditions and religions, many or none. I welcome all of you to this space today. And to those that join us by live stream, wherever you are part of this gathering today as well, an integral part. We, all of us, come to this place held together by threads between us, threads holding together our emotions, whether they be grief or anger or sadness or joy or hope or fear. And as we each hold a piece of that thread for each other, we are met with something sacred. The wonder of life and the mystery of its unfolding, the rhythms of light and dark, the circle of seasons and the passage from birth to death. As we come here to hear memories of Lorne today, born in Jarvie, Alberta, growing up on the farm with 3 brothers and sister, we will today honor this man, a lover of education, studier of maths and sciences, a teacher, a man who loved the freedom of being behind the wheel, either on the open road or shuttling people here, there, and everywhere. He also loved the creativity of being behind the lens of a camera. We'll learn of his love of nature, for travel, his caring spirit, and his important role as brother, husband, partner, father, grandfather, friend, and caretaker. And as we honor and celebrate the gift of Lorne's life, we'll take time together to find comfort with each other. Comfort in stories, in memories. We'll share and express our gratitude. We'll learn something of the legacy of his life and lean into the strength of who we are together as a community of grief and gratitude. So death has been the occasion that we've gathered. But the real reason we're here is life. To celebrate it, to honor it, to remember it. And it's in this spirit of life and light that we light this candle among us today. As this light shines among us and its essence moves around us and between us, we know that although death has come, the light of Lorne's spirit has not been extinguished. It still ignites in us, warms us, lives on in and among us, and in the mystery of life that moves beyond us. So we're invited to lean into this circle today, in sorrow, in comfort, knowing that we're held together by love's support, encouragement, and care. I'll invite us to share some words together, words that will help us center our attention and focus our intention for our time together today. We'll speak words either in the pamphlet in front of you or on the screen. in the ever-creating love and energy in which we live and die. We celebrate the gift of life and honor the mystery of death. We come with hearts broken open by love and loss into this community of grief and gratitude. As we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, may we move through sorrow towards celebration. Together, may we find the courage to mourn and to celebrate, to laugh and to cry, to be alone with our thoughts and lean into the community of care we create with each other. May we trust the circle of life as we are held in the truth that death does not have the last word, because love is what lasts forever. Amen. We're invited to sing a few songs today, and as we sing, you're invited to stand or remain seated. You're invited to sing the words you see before us, or if you remember different words from your past or present, you're invited to sing those, but we'll sing together as a sign of celebration and togetherness as community. Sharing memories and stories and our history with a person is the heartbeat of any celebration. And so the first of those who will share with us today is Zandra, Lorne's daughter. Thank you, Zandra.
Thank you all for coming. Before I start, I want to apologize and correct an omission. Sienna, Shaden, and Tayden Levescont looked at Dad as a grandpa, and I am very sorry that I left them out of the bulletin in the rush to get it finalized. So we're here to talk about my dad. You have the outline of his life in front of you, and I'd like to share some stories that will illuminate the whole, as I knew it. Times were tight when I was growing up. I knew that in theory, but we weren't visibly poor. I mean, my mom bought us all Cabbage Patch dolls the year they came out. And we did music lessons and swimming lessons and gymnastics and scouts or brownies or CGIT. Now, looking back, I cannot believe how close to the line my parents skated and how hard my dad worked to keep us afloat. He showed love through action, and through my childhood, that loving action was expressed through working. Dad loved driving all his life. I'm sure most of the people in this room have heard him tell a taxi story. He'd started driving taxi when my parents lived in Melbourne before I was born. So to make ends meet, he took it up again in Edmonton, and he drove night shift every summer, every spring break, every Christmas break, and almost every weekend. We did take family vacations to the Okanagan or Vancouver Island to see relatives, but when we were home, Dad was almost always working or sleeping or fixing something. But he did always make time for the weekend in June when Knox-Met United Church rented Camp Wahilo. Those family camp weekends were full of laughter and singing. Dad didn't think he had a good singing voice, but he sang to us anyway. And we all loved it. He'd sing us awake with "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." He would drive my mom nuts with Johnny Verbeck. And he would celebrate being outside with The Happy Wanderer. And Lee extended family dinners could not begin until we had sung both verses of Johnny Appleseed. So this is your notice for later. When Knox-Met started an occasional choir to bridge the gap between junior choir and senior choir, I was lucky enough to sing with him on a regular basis. I really missed his singing after I moved out of the house, and I always will. I am so grateful to my Aunt Elizabeth for bringing song to Dad's last hours. She came in on Thursday with camp songs, and he joined in. And then at the end, she started humming hymns, and it was just so beautiful, so beautiful. The overwork caught up with Dad in the early 90s, and he had to leave his teaching job. So he bought his own taxi, and he drove officially full-time for a few years. And then he took a job, he swapped taxi driving for teaching driving, which combined two of his passions. Through everything, he took whatever reality dished out and somehow made it work. I remember the time I was a new driver, I got stuck in a snowbank, I tried to rock out of it, and I killed the transmission. I called him in a panic, of course, because Dad is the fixer, and I don't remember how we got the car out. But when he discovered that it still drove forwards just fine, we kept driving it. And I got really good at identifying pull-through parking spots. Later, I was working in Waterton after my first year of university. That year, we had 3 cars and 3 drivers, although one was the no reversing car. But the car that was mine was the Jetta, and it had belonged to my dad's parents, and I still miss that car. But it sprung a coolant leak, and the mechanic in Pincher Creek couldn't fix it, so I hobbled my way to Calgary, stopping every half hour to let it cool down and pour in more fluid. And I think it took me 4 hours, and Dad met me in Calgary and drove me the rest of the way home. And that wasn't the last time Dad saved the day. He and Mom helped me and my wife Sarah move to Sandy Bay, Saskatchewan in 2002 when we moved up there for a teaching job. And 3 years later, when we had to move and leave in a hurry after a bad series of break-ins, Dad borrowed Uncle Gordon's truck and horse trailer. It came up with Bethany, and they were there in less than 48 hours to pack us up and move us out. When I was in my early 20s, I learned that my parents had been keeping a secret for almost 30 years. I had an older sister. When Pam found us, it was a turning point for Mom and Dad. After we met her, life became gradually more peaceful. Other circumstances were also changing. Mom was working then. Dad was down to a single job that he liked. The 3 kids were growing up and becoming more responsible. And there were still hard times to come when Mom's health started failing. But from 20 years on, I can see now how the strain of keeping that secret had been wearing on them for so long, and what a relief it must have been to release that burden. Photography was one of Dad's lifetime joys. When you look at the photos at the back, you'll see a lot of him with a camera in his hand or around his neck. One of my earliest memories was going to the circus in the Coliseum and being allowed to look through the telephoto lens when I was 4 or 5. It was such a thrill and a big responsibility to be using this magical and precious piece of equipment. I loved big family gatherings when he'd put up his tripod and set the timer and run to get in the frame. And when digital SLRs became widely available around 2000 or 2001, Dad adopted the new technology wholeheartedly. And the blessing and curse of digital is that now we have thousands of images, terabytes of data to sort and share and choose from. So this is an early warning to all of us, including me. Start editing now. Dad took lots of photos of people, of course, but most of his library is nature shots. He took photos of the full moon and eclipses, landscapes, bison, birds and beavers, and macro flower photos. His love of the natural world just shines. I believe that was fostered growing up on the farm and having the freedom of the farm. As a young man, he worked 3 summers at Canyon Church Camp in Waterton, the same place I later worked, which was a really special connection. During that time, he hiked every trail in that park except for one. The one that he didn't is called Crypt Lake, and you take a boat across the lake, and then you climb, and you hike up, and then there's a ladder and a tunnel you have to climb through, and then there's a cliff you sort of inch across, and then you get to the lake at the end, and he never did that one. When I was a kid, we'd walk in the river valley, and he would help me look for fossils in the coal seams. He took us kids on trips to Drumheller, showing us the variety and wonder of the landscape around us. After he bought his retirement trailer, he planned his summers around camping, bringing each grandkid in turn for a few days or a week as soon as they were old enough. His favorite spot was Elk Island Park, and he knew it well enough that he could probably do most of the hikes blindfolded. He lived in his tilly hat and his hiking boots and a walking stick when needed. One of his proudest moments in the last 15 years, I guess, time goes fast when you're my age, but I think 15 years, is being able to hike up to the Burgess Shale, which is a secret location in the Rockies. You have to pre-register. And so it combined science and hiking and nature and education, and he was so proud of it. So the United Church has always been a cornerstone of Dad's life. I grew up at Knox-Met United, which was on 83rd Avenue and 109th Street, and it's the church that my mom's parents started going to in the 40s, and so my parents were married there. My mom's ashes were scattered there. And we sat in the balcony with my grandpa, Stephenson, and every Sunday, and the reason we were in the balcony is so that Grandpa and Grandma, who was in the choir, could see each other and make eye contact. But every Sunday, even when Dad was working night shift, he was there, and he might doze off, but he was always there, and he always took us there. And besides Sunday services and summer and church camp, Dad was always involved in committees and nut sale fundraisers and the Alpha program and potlucks and family dances and everything. And when he joined Karen Ann at this congregation after my mom's death, I know he dove right back in again. And it has been such a joy for him to have this supportive community. So Dad was no gourmet. When he cooked for us kids, we ate a lot of mac and cheese with either tuna, ground beef, or hot dogs mixed in. A lot of canned soup, a lot of pierogies. He would cook a whole box of burger patties and leave them in the fridge for us to microwave when we were hungry, since our schedules and his night taxi shifts often prevented a family dinner. We loved his grilled cheese sandwiches, and it was a banner day when he'd open a can of pineapple rings and put one on a toast and put cheese on top and then broil it just till it's brown and bubbly. And all of our spouses were going, ew. For Dad, scrambled eggs could be any meal or any time of day. He specialized in camping scrambles, which was eggs mixed with ham or bacon, sometimes mushrooms, and whatever leftover veggies were in the fridge, and the whole thing topped with cheese. On my last visit to him a month ago, when he couldn't swallow anything, he said the thing he missed most was scrambled eggs and toast. And he was trying to feed us right until the end. On Thursday evening, there were so many of us in his hospital room that he decided we needed to order pizza. And he got as far on his phone as the Boston Pizza website, despite hardly being able to see. Dad could talk your ear off. And from how long I've been standing here, I suspect I may have similar tendencies. He was the king of shaggy dog stories, sometimes on purpose for comic effect, sometimes by accident when he wandered down a rabbit hole. I don't know if it came from driving taxi or if that just exacerbated his storytelling habit, but he talked to absolutely everyone. When I was a teenager, that incessant small talk was really embarrassing. And as an adult in restaurants, I had to leave extra tips because he would usually make the waitstaff choose his meal for him. But I do envy his easy way of connecting with people and of creating relationships even late in life. I think for him, the best part of making a new friend might have been finding someone who hadn't heard all his stories already. In the aftermath of Karen Ann's death, I was afraid he would be lonely and unhappy for a long time. I'm so glad for the happiness he and Donna were able to create together, and the new experiences and friendships he found through her and with her. I know in the last months she's taken on most of the burden and had the worst of it, and I'll always be grateful for how well she's looked after Dad. On balance, my dad had a good life. There was a long, hard slog in the middle, but he came through it, and he was able to recover happiness, grace, and compassion. He loved his family fiercely, all his families. And he was able to find new love after loss, not just once, but twice. He built community late in life, and he was surrounded by friends until the very end. May we all be so blessed.
The family has chosen to honor Lorne in a musical tribute with Donna's granddaughter, Samantha Wilson's original song that she has sung and recorded, and we'll play it here today.
I want you to know that I won't let you go. I'll carry you with me through every memory, and I wouldn't take back all the good times we had, the late night calls and the laughs. I wish you could just come back. Dancing up in the sky, and you're watching over me as I try to hold the tears in, 'cause I know it'll be a while till I see you again. But there's one thing I do know, there's one thing I do know, heaven gained an angel. This doesn't seem real. I don't know how to feel. You were so full of life, man, and you really changed mine, yeah. 'Cause I know you're dancing up in the sky, and you're watching over me as I try to hold the tears in, 'cause I know it'll be a while till I see you again. But there's one thing I do know, there's one thing I do know. Heaven gained an angel, and I'd give everything to call you one more time, and I'd give everything to get to say goodbye. Oh, never did I think I'd lose a friend, but I can't wait till the day I see you again. 'Cause I know you're dancing up in the sky, and you're watching over me as I cry. It's so hard to hold the tears in, but I know one day I'll get to see you again. And I'm waiting for that day when everything will be okay. But until then, I do know heaven gained an angel.
We welcome Pam West, Donna's granddaughter, to speak some memories. Sorry.
I'm an old granddaughter.
Yes, you are. Sorry. Daughter.
I'm the daughter.
My apologies.
No, it's good. That's good. Thank you, Samantha. That was beautiful. So Lorne, we first met Lorne Thanksgiving 2011. He showed up unbeknownst to the family. We did not know our mother was dating. And we found out his name was Lorne Lee. They'd met each other square dancing is how we found out, and as they got to know each other, he showed up at our place at a family gathering. As one would expect when you're older and your mother starts dating someone and she's the age of, I won't say, at the time, all our antennas kind of went up. Who is this Lorne Lee? Well, it didn't take us long to find out who Lorne was. He was kind, patient. Everybody here already knows this. He was a retired teacher who still loved to teach. He's a great listener, fantastic storyteller, avid hiker, and he loved camping. We needed to know more, though. Did he cheer for the right football team? He did. And even more important, he cheered for the right hockey team. So what was not to like, and eventually love? So Lorne started coming to our family gatherings, our functions, coming with the grandkids whenever we had an activity. He joined in and he came and he watched. I distinctly remembered early on in the relationship as they got to know each other, we got to watch them get to know each other, and we had gone to a ringette game with my daughter and we went out for supper after. It's very interesting as you're older and you're watching your mom get to know and date and watch them fall in love. Smiles and giggles. What's going on? I remember leaving supper that day and my daughter going, "What's up with Grandma?" I said, "I think it's young love in older people." It's great. So we really got to know Lorne. And it's been 12 years since we've got to know Lorne, and he jumped right into our family, and he became a very large part of it. I'd asked some of our family to share some stories, so I'm just going to share. The theme is very similar to what everybody already knows. He was adventurous. He was willing to do anything, and he jumped in and he did a lot with the kids. He made snow paths in the winter in the acreage. Often you'd find him out snowshoeing, and kids were following him, adults were following him, and off they'd go. He did a lot of camping. We did camp a lot together. He was open to having people hang out with him. Austin in particular would track around him, do whatever he was doing. Melissa shared a story of when they were camping, when we were all camping and they were all hiking in the woods. He said Lorne taught her girls to go, "Yo, bear," if they thought a bear was coming too close. And even to this day, when they're hiking, they'll randomly announce it in a deep voice and think and chuckle about Lorne. Lorne was really adventurous because he was willing to join in some of our antics. Christmas Day, we often, still do, actually haven't the last couple of years, cook popcorn outside in a big kettle corn. -40 or not, he was out helping us bag, helping us stir, and helping us eat. We even were happy that he was willing to be a Santa's helper. Christmas morning at times, he was willing to do what we had all done and got passed on to him. Aunt Pat commented that Lorne enjoyed theme parks and how the two of them enjoyed to go for rides while the other, Uncle Keith and Mom, would just be happy to watch and wait. They loved to cruise. They cruised quite often. And similar, he still would have the wait staff ask for his supper. Along with being adventurous, we truly did see that he enjoyed being a teacher and learning. Being a helper, he helped out always. He was taxiing people around if he needed to. If someone needed a ride, he'd take kids to the Space Science Center, to the museum, wherever anyone needed to go, he was willing to go. Samantha shared a story about learning to drive. So as everybody has a parent and a kid, we can be a little stressed, and she commented her mom was a little stressed, but Lorne jumped to the rescue and took her driving. She remembers how patient he was, how he made learning fun. She had a great time and there was not a lot of stress. And even now she remembers that he asked her, suggested to her never to stop too close to the line in case someone is coming up behind you and needs to get out of the way. Good lesson. Many shared stories about Lorne camping and camping. When he camped, he liked to make the fire. He was the fire setter and he was the wood getter and always made sure that the wood was stocked up if Samantha was having friends over, and making sure if anyone else was there and we were going to cook hot dogs or roast hot dogs, the fire was going to be perfect. He enjoyed learning. He was, as everyone knows, an avid reader, and he often loved sharing his books with anybody who wanted to read them after he was done. We knew he was a good reader too, because whenever you went to a museum, the Space Science Center, or the Telecenter, anywhere there was a printed word on a wall, it seemed that we'd lose Lorne. It wouldn't take long to go, "Where's Lorne?" And someone would have to backtrack and find him, and sure enough, he was reading a poster, a monument, and reading every word. We know these last few months, more than a few months, have been hard. And it was hard for him not to be the helper and to be helped. But he was gracious and he was very thankful for those who did help. We were lucky to have known Lorne, and we are so grateful for all the time that we've had and the joy that we had, the stories that we've had and we've heard. It's 12 years ago this Thanksgiving that we will have met Lorne, and since that day he has truly been a part of our family, and we will truly miss him.
Thank you, Zandra, and Sam and Pam, for all of those words and stories. They are so important. They're part of our memory, and they're part of how we learn things we may not have known and celebrate those things we did. Lorne's twin brother, John, has selected a reading that he will share now with us. Thank you, John.
The words I share were shared with a community of faith a long, long time ago. But hear them today. It is by God's mercy that we are engaged in this ministry. We have this treasure in clay jars so that it may be made clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God and does not come from us. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not given to despair. Persecuted, but not struck down. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be made visible in our bodies. For while we live, we are always being given up to death for Jesus' sake, so that the life of Jesus may be made visible in our mortal flesh. So death is at work in us, but life in you. We do not lose heart. From the Christian tradition, we hear these words. May we find life, love in them too. Amen.
Hearing all these memories from Lorne's family, it's easy to see how Lorne's life has meant a great deal. Sometimes in the ways remembered and expressed, the things we couldn't possibly forget about him. And also so often in the little things. Life is lived in all these small moments put together. They seem extraordinarily ordinary. Things like cooking a grilled cheese or offering a ride or a small smirk or a smile. Little acts of care and love that you didn't know something need fixing, yet Lorne fixed it. Of enjoying a meal. Small, ordinary things. Life is lived in these small moments of gentle light, of going about our business, walking past each other, finding what those we'll walk with for a lifetime or simply for a short time. Life is lived in the light of such simple pleasures and seemingly ordinary acts. For Lorne, his light found its radiance in small, often quiet acts of living. And he gave himself to the small spaces of making a difference to things bigger than himself. There's an old piece of wisdom from the prophet Micah, who these words are attributed to, who exists in a group of prophets that lived about 700 or 800 years before the Common Era. And we can call them the social justice prophets. And you'll see why when I read a little piece of Micah. It's plain how to live and what to do. Do what's fair and just to your neighbor. Be compassionate and kind in your love. Walk humbly. Micah seems to sum up how best to live this spiritual life in one phrase. He says, in essence, you've got to live it. You've got to act your commitments. You've got to let your life speak. You've got to be in service to justice, kindness, and love. In other words, you don't have to do big, great, amazing things. You don't need to have the perfect words. It's not about what you believe. It's not about saying the perfect thing at the perfect time, because honestly, none of us can do that. In reality, most of us have a hard time knowing what to do, particularly at really hard and emotional times. We're making it up as we go along. Lorne had a few of those really hard and emotional times in his life. All of us have a few really hard and emotional times in our lives. There are myriad challenges in our complicated lives. It's part of life and part of the struggle of living a life of love. Lorne set an example in that even in those hardest times, he felt and experienced deeply. Maybe you're with me. You shared more tears with him than you can even count. And so this wisdom to let your life speak, to be in service to justice and kindness and love, in the end, this is all we have to give. The things, the physical objects of life, the things we collect, they have a way of disappearing. The memories, as beautiful as they are, and as distressing as this is, oh my goodness, they fade. We don't want to hear that on a day like today. And for good reason, we're grieved by that. It's upsetting to ponder forgetting the small things. But what we have that lasts, what we have that outlives us all, what we have that never dies is the love that we've shared in our living. That love never goes anywhere. It's the most eco-friendly, timeless, most sacred commodity known to this planet. It keeps getting recycled. The love we give to this world is never lost. It gets passed along. It gets treasured. It gets returned. And it inspires more. Micah says this about that love. There are many ways to say it. We're used to the classic one, I love you. But those words are only one way to say it. The ancient reading reminds us that we say I love you by doing what's fair and just to your neighbor. We say I love you by being compassionate and kind. We say I love you by walking humbly, knowing you're connected to all, that all of life is sacred. That we recognize in humility that we're all the same. We're all born, we live, we die. Every person's a person. Every creature has the right to be here as much as us. We're one with nature, the stars, the creatures, the human family of one spirit, all connected, all sacred. In humility, we walk. Just a short story about Lorne. Lorne loved the night. He was a faithful presence at our winter solstice gatherings. That gathering on the longest night recognized the gift of darkness in our lives. He always, when we opened it up to sharing, now, yes, he loved to talk a lot, but he always had a story to share about his experience with darkness, with the night, with the stars. He often had a photo to share too. He shared about the peace he felt in being part of the cosmos, his connection to the long story and the life breath of nature. Lorne's humility in the face of life's pain and grief and challenge, his openness to the darkness of our experiences, meant that that metaphor of the longest night of the year was not just metaphor for Lorne. It told a story of his life. That there was darkness. There was nighttime. Like we all have. And he brought understanding to that. And on those days when he shared those stories, he was able to bring some light that was gift to us that gathered with him. It felt as though his stories were offered so that another might feel heard and cared for in whatever darkness they might experience. And in that way, the night is not quite as dark as we thought. As he looked up to the stars and experienced wonder, so too was he a glimmer of light. So whatever our profession, whatever work we do, whatever's occupying our time nowadays, the work of love is our vocation as human beings. Whatever our career, love is our calling. Whatever our path, love is what we can give in exchange for the privilege of our birth. Whatever we do, our work in this life is to love, as the poet Elizabeth Alexander says. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself. Others by first do no harm and take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love that casts a widening pool of light. So what if we are born to walk forward into the light that has been given to us by those who have gone before? What if we're born to shine in our time? To be that glimmer of light? What if the work of our lives is to cast that pool of light for those who will come to shine after us? With integrity, with his quiet, big presence and caring spirit. Lorne has taught the finest lesson with his life, with a gracious and living light in quiet caring, in compassion, in a listening ear, and in this wisdom of stories. In the inner strength of experiencing and feeling, coping and growing, Lorne has succeeded in transforming his life into light. And his legacy shines brightly among us today. We will honor Lorne with our memories, with our grief, with the stories, but we'll honor him best by taking up that justice and care and compassion and love. In this way, he lives through us and through and in us with every such intention in our days. So may we too make our lives a series of small moments of great light. Light not extinguished by our death or any death. This light it shines on in this wonderful, recyclable circle of love. May we find ways to make it so, always. Amen. We're going to pause now to feel and ponder and sense and speak the significance of Lorne's life in our prayers of gratitude. And in this time of prayer and intention, we'll start with some silence, and then I'll speak some words into our space. Let's have hearts of gratitude as we open them to each other now. We approach the sacredness of death knowing that life and death have a very necessary arrangement between them. We come to this memory day knowing our connection to life. That the earth is our cradle, the stars and sky are our blanket, the creatures of land, sea, and air, our siblings. And so we can affirm the sacred presence of all things and all people. And in that spirit, we center ourselves in this presence, embracing our joy for Lorne's life, his gifts, and his very being. With full hearts, we are thankful for the life we have shared with Lorne, for his joy in living and love of adventure, for his honesty that he brought to his relationships and his commitments, for the love he shared in his role as brother, uncle, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, partner, and friend, for his willingness to find a way to get things done, for his love of nature, of capturing it with his camera, his commitment to walk and hike, to see what he could see, to travel. We're grateful for Lorne's intentionality to spend time with the people he cared about, his ability to befriend strangers, strike up a conversation, and help anyone feel connected. for his commitment to being a caring individual and doing whatever he could to help, for his contributions to this spiritual community in his acts of and gestures of care, his love for the quiet spiritual discipline of walking the labyrinth, for his caring presence, for who he was and how he lived, and for all that made him unforgettable in the hearts and minds of those who knew him. We are filled with gratitude. May our prayers be expressions of our care for his family, for his partner Donna, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, for his siblings and the many extended family and many friends, all who've been touched by his life and are now grieved by his death. We celebrate the miracle of life and living with gratitude and humility for the chance to live, to love, and be loved. And may the hope that we find here in this gathered community, in the faith that we hold, encourage us in the work of our grief. And may the peace that passes all understanding find home in us and through us. May it be so. On behalf of the entire family, thank you for being present with us in this room online. We'd like to invite you to stay for a reception after our gathering here today to continue to share stories and connection with each other. At the conclusion of our time together, we'll invite you to step into the foyer or even out onto the sidewalk outside or just at the back of the room while we transform this space. And then when you arrive back, you'll find tables and chairs, food and drinks for you to share and enjoy. We'd ask if there's 4 or 5 of you that feel like you could help us roll some tables. We would love that to happen, and just meet here at those double doors right afterward, and we'll do it lickety-split. Let's share these closing words together in the comfort of this circle. I will speak the words in white. If you would reply with the words in yellow. All our laughter, all our sadness, safe now in the undying light of love. All our stories, all our memories, safe now in the undying light of love. The one we remember, the ones we love, safe now in the undying light of love. And so as our time comes to a close, we will seek to find new ways for light to shine. We will experience the light of Lorne's life and legacy now in new ways. And although we continue to grieve, we recognize that the light remains around us and within us, among us. And so we go in peace, in the presence of light and love that continues to shine in all its ways, and in the presence of all that is sacred in and around us, love and peace that is ours always.